And now it's time for RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester.
Hey everybody, Ken in the house, in the studio with the usual suspects for another hour of RoadWorthy Drive behind the scenes. We've got Jack, the designated adult of behind the controls.
Hello.
We've got Sasha, our social media diva, holding it down on mic 2. And you got yours truly. In this hour, we rummage through the parts bin as usual. And we're going to have a legislative update. There's some things going on you need to know about your government that affects automotive. We'll cover that. I promise not to be too boring. We've got something that I'm going to take you on to the dark side.
Will there be cookies?
No. The darker side of disruptive change as it applies to the gig economy and one country's attempt to go all 1984 George Orwell on their populace.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, it's a thing, and it's scary. And the thing is, when you break it down, it may not be too far-fetched as you think. But we'll talk about that. And then finally, since I'm in that kind of mood, we're going to roll Utopia and the autonomous car. What might a utopian future look like fully autonomous? So we got all that, a lot more with the usual comments from the peanut gallery right here on RoadWorthy Drive Behind the Scenes. So glad you could be with us. Jack, we are at 11 minutes.
We be at 11 minutes.
And we be ready when you be ready, sir.
Just remember, Sasha, I have the power.
I don't know power for what.
It's the only thing.
I'm the one that turns the mics on and off. Therefore, I have the power.
Do you want to go faster? Yeah!
It's time for RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester, America's premier automotive news and information talk show. Ken loves talking all about cars, past, present, and future. Here he is, that automotive nerd with the historical twist, Ken Chester.
This is indeed RoadWorthy Drive, and I'm so glad you could join us. I'm your host for the hour, Ken Chester. Each and every week here on the program, I load it full of information and consumer news that will benefit you, my listener. I share the news and analysis that you will find nowhere else concerning the automotive topics of the day. From impact of that autonomous Uber down in Arizona a few weeks back, to breaking consumer news that could impact your pocketbook not only now, but in the near future. Yep, I do the research so you don't have to, using my years as an automotive journalist, vehicle purchase consultant, and automotive researcher historian for your benefit. As usual, this hour is no exception to the rule. I plan to take you for a walk on the dark side, as well as share with you breaking news on the legislative front. Trust me, you want to know. I won't put you to sleep, I promise. And finally, we're going to take a little walk into the weeds for a bit with a segment I call Utopia and the Autonomous Car. So plenty for you to bite into information-wise, but first, let's say hi to the other members of my RoadWorthy Drive crew. You know him, you love him, you can't live without him, and that's because he's the only designated adult that the suits will let near the controls so we can produce the show. Say hello to my friend and RoadWorthy Drive executive producer, Jack.
Hello.
Hey, there you go. Just a lot of emotion there.
I was waiting for him to keep going.
Yeah.
He did not cover this in the production meeting.
Well, you know what?
No.
I was only going to give you 25 cents. I didn't realize you wanted 50 for that.
Well, you should know that. Move on.
Well, now I do. Holding it down at mic number 2 is RoadWorthy Drive's answer to Monty Python and all things social media. Our sweet and sassy social media diva, Sasha. Howdy, my peoples.
Where does he write this stuff?
Late at night.
Yeah,
When
apparently.
Very late at night, actually. No lie.
That's because he's not getting enough sleep.
Not lately, actually. Hopefully we'll recover here in a few days. But
There you go.
yes, sir. All I'm going to ask, I asked it the last show, I'm going to ask, so does meeting with the suits guarantee that you get a chair and we don't?
Yes.
I mean, this is a case of the haves and the have-nots.
Okay, but
Or the haves and the have-brokens. I'm just saying.
In my defense, though, I actually tried to meet with the suits, and I was particularly locked out. Like, what was up with the door?
All I know is we're standing, you're sitting. That's all I know. Just
You
saying.
have a chair behind you that you can
It's
sit down in.
broken.
Well, you're the one that wants to be seen on our YouTube feed, so you
Yeah,
got to
but
stand up.
But it's broken, though.
Not my monkey, not my circus.
I'm waiting for him to be like, but she touched it, though.
It's got cooties?
Let's talk about if you want to contact the show.
Well, before I share what I found from the parts bin, here's how you can connect with the Roadworthy Drive crew and the show, if you want to. Call or text the Roadworthy Drive line at 872-222-9793. That number is good anytime, no matter what Jack tells you. You don't have to wait to hear me on the radio to have an impact. Although I've been told some people want to impact me even outside the studio.
What?
Yeah, just saying.
Well, that's a you problem.
Yeah, well, if you'd rather communicate via email, it's safer, it's softer, it doesn't hurt as badly. My address is ken@roadworthydrive.com. Either way is a wonderful way to connect. Now, a little bit from the parts bin, if you guys are ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. I'll ask this question of you, Jack. You might remember it. Have you ever heard of a Yenko Camaro?
No.
Okay. I'm not even going to ask Sasha.
Good.
I'm not even going to do that.
Okay.
The Yenko Camaros were vehicles that were actually modified by a dealer in Pennsylvania. And ordering some parts from GM, they upgraded the standard Camaro into these awesome production cars.
Okay, what year are we talking about?
Late 60s. And in
I
fact,
was only 3 or 4. I know.
I got nothing. I'm not even going to step into that. They made them actually, Camaros were the main ones, but he actually did a couple of Vegas, believe it or not, and a few other cars, I think an Nova or two. Yeah, these things were legendary. In fact, so legendary, they're a collector's item today.
Oh, they'd have to be.
Yeah. Well, guess what? This company called Specialty Vehicle Engineering is bringing out a brand new 2018 Yenko SC Stage 2 Camaro with 1,000 horsepower.
What could possibly go wrong?
That sounds like something that I definitely need.
No one needs 1,000 pounds on the 1,000 horsepower on the road.
It's based on a 2018 Chevy Camaro SS in the 1LE trim.
Okay.
It's powered by a custom-built 6.8 liter, which is mammoth, supercharged LT1 V8. Oh my goodness! And they backstop this engine in order to keep this engine running good and cooled, with a heavy-duty cooling system with an engine oil cooler, 2 outboard radiators, a transmission cooler, and a rear differential cooler.
Wow.
I guess 1,000 horsepower throws off a little heat.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit of heat.
Yeah. Now, what they've done is they've paid homage to the labeling and the inside design of the Yenko Camaros with the badging, special wheels, and things like that pay homage to the original Yenkos. Now, they're going to build 25 of them, but the manufacturer is not telling you how much they're going to charge.
I'm going to bet you it's going to be north of 200,000.
I'm inclined to agree with you, sir. I am inclined to agree with you.
Mark the tape.
Oh, get over it, will you? Let's talk about Audi for a minute. Audi, we talked about Audi reaching out in vehicle to infrastructure technology in Las Vegas about a year or two ago.
Yep.
They've expanded.
Okay, where are they now?
They are now going to D.C., but they're also in the cities of Dallas and Houston, Portland, Oregon, Denver, Colorado, and Palo Alto and Arcadia, California. Now, what they're using is their cars. Certain Audi models have the ability to communicate with traffic lights in order to access what they call the time to green feature, which would let a driver know in certain Audi models when that light's going to change.
Oh.
So it's actually going to give you a countdown to when it's going to change.
Yeah, you'll know as opposed to the drivers around you who won't know.
So,
Well, if somebody's in front of me, it doesn't do me a darn bit of good.
Yeah, well, it might coming up to an intersection, though.
So
Particularly if you're considering different directions.
in addition to the yellow light, the car will also tell you.
The car says time to green.
Okay.
That's what it says. Now, future versions of this could include integration with the vehicle start-stop function and something called green light optimized speed advisory. Meaning, if you think about it, a way that if you're in a city, that it would know the speed communicating with the traffic lights down the block, what speed you need to run to keep the green light, and never have to come to a complete stop.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, that's where they're going. Not to mention, Audi's kind of been at the forefront. We talk a lot about vehicle to X, vehicle to anything.
Yep.
Audi's been aggressive in real-time vehicle to integration, vehicle to infrastructure. Just alone in D.C., there are 600 intersections that support that time to green feature of their traffic light information.
Well, because usually there's about only one person in D.C. that can run whatever the light color is.
Of course. But think about this. This is another step in more information which could lead to a better mobility experience, particularly if you integrate it into the car and the car could optimize your trip based on traffic load and pattern, accidents, construction, all of this put in together, and it'll map a path for you where you spend more time moving than sitting.
Okay, but this is also going to raise a concern for me about, aren't we adding one more distraction to driving by this?
Not necessarily. Particularly if we're heading towards a semi-autonomous and fully autonomous future. Also understand that Audi also has something called Traffic Jam Assistant. You start merging all this stuff together, the car begins to get the ability to do certain things on its own more efficiently than if you were driving it.
Okay.
So, food for thought, or as they say, another brick in the wall.
Oh, did you have to go
Pink
there?
I just
Nice.
did. Yes, I did.
Nice.
He
Yes.
had to make the Pink Floyd reference.
I
boy,
did.
Boy, you just dated a bunch of us in this room. You know that?
You know what? Deal. When I come back, a legislative update. Roadworthy Drive with Ken Chester is heard exclusively on the Roadworthy Drive Radio Network.
You're tuned to Roadworthy Drive with Ken Chester.
Okay, now I have a question that just occurred to me while you were talking about the stoplights.
Mm-hmm.
In a utopian, self-driving, autonomous world,
Where have we heard that before?
right? Where,
Something we'll be talking about in a couple of segments from now.
right?
Okay.
Will we have need for stoplights?
I believe they'll call it either a traffic beacon or a traffic control device.
Right.
I would say yes, because it's not going to be all of a sudden, one day it's all manual, next day it's all autonomous.
No, I'm saying in the full autonomous world. I'm not saying
I
during
think for pedestrians you would.
Okay.
I could see particularly in the core of larger cities where you would have something for crossing.
Okay.
For large crowds as opposed to situations. I mean, granted, particularly with what we just saw in Arizona, you don't want people just crossing all over, wherever, whenever, how. You want some flow, predictability, safety to that.
And when you were in New York City last year, you had said you're more likely to get ran over by a bike than you are a car.
Absolutely. Sidewalk, bike path, parking, street.
Wow.
That's the other model.
From last year.
Yeah.
So in 2017, I was showing him this because I wasn't sure if he had saw it. In 2017, the same company put out a Yenko Camaro with 800 horsepower, and they only made 50 of them. Okay. Now for 2018, they decided, what the heck? We'll throw in another 200 horsepower. What's another 200 when you're already at 800? So 1,000 horsepower. And this time around, they're only going to make 25, you said?
Yes, I did.
So they cut it in half, but then gave you like 200 more horsepower.
Ludicrous speed! Go!
Oh, mercy.
Stop this thing.
And
that's
I
the
can do that.
Jetsons, darling.
Okay, now,
Yeah.
did they sell all 50 of them?
Don't know.
It's saying in here that they did. In fact,
And I bet it didn't take them very long.
no, because I mean, there's people that we all know, and we could name drop that the minute that an automotive
Something crazy is available.
They're on it.
Yeah, they're on it.
Cash in hand.
Yeah,
Front of the line.
He's not there, but he sends his representative there.
Well, yeah.
And
you darn well know the guys in Dallas, Texas got one.
right, and you know Jay Leno got one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a basketball player, if I remember right, that he has like literally his own property. That's all. Like, it's not even adjacent to his home. It's he drives to.
There are a number of collectors that have buildings. Like, for example, I was telling you, locally, a vintage Chevy collector.
Mm-hmm.
And they stopped counting the value of the inventory at $30 million.
Wow.
And had free reign in there twice, taking pictures. And his stuff goes back from I think the earliest vehicle I shot in there was in 1912, all the way up to, I want to say early 90s with the Corvettes he's got.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got, for example, his 57 Chevy collection, he has every color of the 57 in the rare fuel-injected model.
Oh, wow.
I didn't realize they had fuel injection back that far.
Early, 57. And there were, what did they say, was it 13 or 15 colors? And he has one of each.
One of each?
One of each.
I would hate to see what that insurance policy is.
Okay, but here's my thing. I mean, I would just love to be his, what do you call the person that actually finds, like, these rare vehicles?
Probably the curator, and I happen to know him.
I'm just saying. I would love to be the bird dog in that.
I wouldn't. Collectors like that are very
particular.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Extremely.
Like, there's
particular.
no coming close. You have to get exactly what they want.
If you've ever watched the show in Dallas, what I can tell you is, and Ken, you mentioned this the other day when we were talking privately, is that those guys look at VINs. They've got books that tell you the VIN number.
Yep.
And they know
Or they've got
exactly
apps where they can take a picture of it.
Yep.
And get a match.
Yeah.
Yep.
Quick story. One of the things that was new in this gentleman's collection that wasn't there the first time I was there is something called a GM Futureliner. GM Futureliner, they'd built 12 or 13 of them in the late 30s, and then they upgraded them for what they call the cavalcade of advancement or cavalcade of the future. GM would roll into a bunch of towns with these converted buses that were built special that had displays in them. They'd open up of all kinds of stuff. Really cool. Had one there. I actually went online and tracked it down. And let's see, what did he pay? I can tell you he paid over $2 million for it.
Wow.
And that particular one was actually on one of the restoration shows. That particular one. And they were so kind to me, they let me actually go up inside where the driver sits. I have pictures of all that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if somebody wanted to navigate my shop.automaniacity.com, we're getting ready to change the site over, but you could go in there and look for the GM Futureliner. I have pictures of the inside where the driver sits, how it's laid out, and that vehicle. It's just amazing.
That is crazy. I'm looking at pictures of it.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
In fact, several of them actually got exported out of the country for restoration or reformatting. Some people used them for different reasons. A few people restored them back to what they were. Some are waiting to be restored. Really gnarly thing. I saw my first one, Kansas City Art of the Car Concours car show about 3 years ago. And I wasn't sure if the one I saw in this man's collection was that one. It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Because that was the first thing I said, I think I've seen this before. Did research and found out it wasn't. I think the two I saw was number 3 and number 8. I'd have to go back and look in my collection.
Point of interest.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the train?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you're just learning about that. GM was in all kinds of things.
I am just.
But
when I Googled GM Streamliner, it also came up, did you want to see the train? And I was like, well, of course I do.
GM.
Because Google and I are tight like that.
GM, through their electromotive division, which they don't own anymore.
Right, right.
Was the leading manufacturer of railroad locomotives before GE overtook them.
But what's interesting to me is how similar their...
Looks like to a car?
It looks like to their GM, the Streamliners.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean...
Well, if you look at that engine and you look at the very top of it, it looks like a GM sedan with the silhouette.
Yeah, yeah.
A GM sedan of maybe the late 50s, early 60s. Yeah, and I want to say that one was developed, I think, in the early 70s or late 60s. I forget.
Which is very nice.
Yeah. All right, then.
All right, let's go.
9 minutes. You've got our jingle queued, sir.
Which one is it?
That would be the second one. That should be the Shell Oil one.
Yes, I got it queued.
Yeah, you're going to like this one, Sasha.
Is it the one where, this situation needs...
No. It's not that one.
No.
No, it's not.
Let
it's not
it
that
go.
one. Thank you.
I love
it's
the
not that
commercial,
one.
though.
When you're ready, Jack.
I'm ready. Here we go.
A report from Shell. Is there anything you can do about the gasoline shortage? Yes. Keep your car in tune. Keep your tires properly inflated. Slow down a little. Don't jackrabbit away from stoplights. And try to cut down on some of those short trips. Through proper maintenance and conservative driving, you could actually reduce your gasoline consumption up to 20%. This has been a report from Shell.
Imagine that. An oil company who is trying to encourage you to burn less gasoline.
I'm actually still shocked that they said that if I keep my tires actually aired up, that it would help with my gas consumption.
Well, but
that is still very true.
What?
But
Yeah.
you also have to remember, back when we had the gas shortage, and I do remember that. I was only 8 or 9 at the time. But, in remembering that, everybody did that. All of the gas commercials, everybody said, inflate your tires, don't jackrabbit, do all this stuff, and you can save gas, because literally there were places where you could only get 10 gallons at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also when they passed the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Yep.
Sammy Hagar forever. I can't drive 55. So true. Hey, and if you're just tuning in, you've discovered RoadWorthy Drive. Welcome. I'm Ken Chester. Now, Sasha would readily admit, and Sasha's our social media diva, in case you were wondering.
I am.
That anytime I want to talk about government regulation, her eyes glaze over. Usually just gets Jack's blood pressure up.
Yes, it does.
See? I know my peeps. However, did you know that the motor vehicle you have parked in your driveway or garage is likely the most regulated, mass-produced device that you use on a regular basis?
Yep.
'Tis true. Whether you like it or not, regulation impacts pretty much everything you do when driving, buying, trading, or leasing a vehicle. Recent events in Washington demand a bit more of attention than your passing interest, and here is why. We're going to start with the fuel economy standards, and we've talked about these. They've been with us, actually, since the oil crisis.
Yeah, yeah.
The automakers made a deal with the EPA back in 2012. They said, we agree that we will develop technologies to deliver a corporate average fuel economy across everything we sell of 52.5 miles to the gallon by the year 2025. They also agreed, and the EPA agreed, that we would look at that in 2018 to see if everybody's on track.
Yep.
Now, in the meanwhile, they locked in standards for 2022, which are a third better than where we're at now. And in case you're wondering where we're at now, average fuel economy is a little bit over 25 miles to the gallon, a corporate average fuel economy. Now, it's important to note two things. One, that any 3/4 ton or heavier truck is excluded. They're not including those.
Okay.
Okay, so the 2,500 and the 250 are all included?
Not included.
Not included, okay.
Not
Yeah,
included.
2,500, 3,500 and up, not included.
Okay.
which is why you never see fuel economy numbers on a 3/4 ton.
On the sticker. Yep.
Because they're exempt.
Yep.
Always have been. However, half tons, SUVs, and smaller pickups did get included. They weren't included before, even though the formula is a little different. So I want to make that clear. Now, they're looking at revisiting. We mentioned in a previous show, oil companies, that everybody's up in arms about that 52.5 miles to the gallon. Now, what people don't realize is the automakers with their long lead times have to do stuff now to even make 2022.
Right.
So that's kind of moot. But 2025, that next 3-year leap, yeah, they're talking to the government about revisiting those standards right now. Another thing they're talking about, and this kind of affects farmers in the Midwest, or pretty much any farmer planting corn for ethanol. And we kind of passed this last hour. They're looking at rolling back the renewable fuel standard and eliminating it completely by 2030.
Okay, go back a little bit for me.
Yeah.
Have they said what they want? You said 52 point something per gallon.
52.5
miles per gallon.
Mm-hmm.
Has the car companies said what they want to lower it to?
If they have, it has not been made public. But obviously, with the billions they got to spend, which is why we're seeing this rise of electric cars, because let's face it, I don't care if you're an aluminum F-150, you're using aluminum doors and lids and trunk lids for a Chevy Silverado, or you're throwing a diesel in a Ram. You're never going to get those vehicles up anywhere close to that. So when you're selling millions of them, which they are, you need other things that either don't pollute at all or get ridiculously high fuel economy. Well, the problem with that is the internal combustion engine has limitations.
Right.
You know, thermal transfer, a lot of the gasoline that's burned in an internal combustion engine is dissipated as heat, not as mechanical power. You lose some of that through the transmission and some of that through the drivetrain in order for it to be efficient. So knowing that you've got limitations, again, we've talked here the last show, where Toyota's got the thermal efficiency of the engine up, meaning it's throwing less in heat and more in mechanical force, or torque, if you will. The more torque in a displacement, the more efficient and the more you can get out of a gallon of gasoline.
Okay. Or
a diesel fuel. So they're looking at that. What we reported on earlier was their attempt to eliminate the renewable fuel standard by 2030. Why? Because there's a number of vehicles, particularly if you own an older vehicle, that won't run on E15, which is the new big thing, which is 15% ethanol, which is another opportunity for ethanol manufacturers and blenders to get more ethanol into the system. In fact, you literally have to check your owner's manual because it's not even. Automakers anywhere between 2006 and 2012 allow it, but there's not a fine line. And even within models, you can't. It really depends on engines and automakers and stuff like that. Some can, some can't. Some of those will actually void the warranty if you're not careful. So there's that going on. Now, would you believe that Takata is still in the news?
How?
Airbags?
I thought they were out of business.
Right.
They filed for bankruptcy, but their assets got sold to another competitor.
Oh, okay.
However, there are airbags still being installed. This recall is still going on. They said that roughly 21 million Takata Corp airbags have been repaired within the last few years. That's only 42% of the 50 million currently recalled.
Wow.
They expect that total to climb as high as 70 million by the end of next year.
Yeah.
And the recall currently covers roughly 37 million vehicles, covering 19 automakers. In fact, to go you one further, Honda's the one most at risk because Honda airbags was in more of their cars than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Honda actually sent people door to door to their owners.
Oh, wow. So they tracked down the vehicles by VIN number?
Mm-hmm. There was Honda and other automakers developed a so-called batch lookup tool that can search up to 10,000 vehicles identification numbers to find open safety recalls. So they're not done, but they're making progress. Coming up, a walk on the dark side of the gig economy and personal credit. This is RoadWorthy Drive.
Do you have a question, idea, or comment for Ken? You can let him know by calling 872-888-9793 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Leave Ken a voicemail message or a text.
Not anymore.
What?
Not at that number.
No.
Not at that anymore.
No, not at that number.
It's 222.
872-222-9793.
Good job. You got it right.
Got it memorized. Yeah.
You should get that on a business card.
You think?
I do think.
Wow. You know, stock's a little stale this time around, Sasha.
Yeah, you know, winter has been hard on us all.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Well, it was real hard on you yesterday.
Yes, it was. Oh, my goodness. Yes, it was.
14 inches?
That's what my local was.
Of snow?
Of snow. No, of puppies and kittens.
Okay.
And a little bit of sarsaparilla.
Lions and tigers and bears on mine.
Right?
Uh-huh.
We're training the tigers, though.
Sugar and spice and everything nice?
No.
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 Okay.
I can't believe that, though. Just happened.
Yeah. Okay. 9 minutes, people?
Hold on.
Okay, he's holding on.
I'm fixing. Talk amongst yourself.
The adult in the room is fixing.
So we get to talk amongst ourselves. Why do I feel like, the lady from SNL?
No.
No?
No.
Not going to do that?
No.
Feeling verklempt?
No.
No?
Very verklempt. Yeah.
No, but I did write something down.
Yeah, coffee talk.
That's what it was. Yes, Coffee Talk with Mike Myers and I forget the...
Linda Richfield, I think is the actor, is the pseudonym.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned in that segment that there was a different standard for the trucks
Yes.
versus the cars.
Yes.
What exactly is that difference when they're actually
How
calculating?
it's computed. And it's way off in the weeds.
Really?
Yeah.
Like it's that, but why?
Yeah.
Yep.
Why are they held to a different standard?
Weight and volume, basically.
Plus the fact you got to remember, those trucks are designed for mostly torque.
Right.
They've got to have power so you can haul things.
Okay.
As somebody who's in construction, we've always bought either 350s or 3500 HDs.
Okay.
So that we've got the pulling power to pull trailers, equipment, skid steers.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Right.
But the problem is anything over 2,500 is exempt from those standards.
Yep.
Now my question is though,
So we're back to the half tons.
are the SUVs
You gentlemen farmers out there.
Are the SUVs held to a different standard other than the light trucks and then
No,
different from
it's-
so they're all grouped together in the different standard?
From what I read, because I actually read the EPA standard.
Of course you did.
They did not make mention of a breakout for SUVs, but they did specifically talk about full-size pickup trucks.
Could that be the reason why we're seeing these? And I don't consider them SUVs because why? But we're seeing like these micro machine SUVs. You know what I'm talking about?
Crossovers.
Yeah, I mean,
They're blurring. What they're doing.
They're
is
blurring the line.
They're blurring the line between what we used to call crossovers and what we called SUVs. And very often the manufacturers will say compact utility vehicle,
Yes.
compact or crossover SUV. Yeah, they're blurring it on purpose. Now, what it used to mean when we said crossover was the attributes of sitting high and some of the attributes of a truck, but it was a car-based body,
right,
as opposed to an SUV, which was actually a truck-based body.
Yep.
right.
But now the automakers, in order to get more mileage out of the marketing, blurs the difference.
Yep.
So it's not that the vehicles changed, the marketing has changed. Now, the reason why you're seeing a lot of smaller vehicles, people want more flexibility. They need to get flexibility in packages that allow them to do different things in their lifestyle, but at the same time develop higher fuel economy.
Okay.
It's also why your full-size SUVs, which used to be powered by V8s, are now turbocharged six-cylinder engines because they got to get the weight down. It's why that the brand new Chevy Silverado has a hood, doors, roof made of magnesium and aluminum in order to get the weight down. Now, they decided not to cave into Ford, but they went with a high-strength steel and actually a wider cargo bed because they was going to back themselves in a corner with the commercials they were running.
Yeah, they were.
But they said, yeah, psych, we got this. So there's a lot of different ways to hit the weight target. I knew GM was going to have to do something, and they chose a different way. So 9 minutes. You ready, sir?
I'm always ready.
He was about to say he was born ready. I know that was coming.
We know that.
Okay. Segment number 3, 9 minutes. We're going over to the dark side.
With cookies.
Oh, mercy. And candy.
All right.
Down by the river.
In a van.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jack. We got it. What you got?
Batman!
When you're ready, sir.
You ready?
Yes, sir. If you're just tuning in, welcome to RoadWorthy Drive. I'm your host, Ken Chester. Now, by the way, if you're one of those that need or want more than your fair share of the road, be sure to check out the show website. That's roadworthydrive.com. Listen to past shows, watch videos of our behind-the-scenes carrying on in studio while we produce the show. This usually includes the passionate conversations that we have about some of the topics we discuss on the show that doesn't make the audio clips. To say that we're passionate and intense about what we discuss each week would be an understatement. Right,
No.
guys? No? Really? No. In any case, see what you're missing. The website is also a great place to discover what we've been up to between shows in the universe of social media. Sasha is our friendly social media diva who keeps you informed and entertained between shows with her posting of a variety of automotive technology topics and news. See how she keeps the social and our social media. As always, you'll be glad you did. Now, here in the show, we've often discussed the positive impact of the vast amount of technology relating to transportation for the average consumer. What I haven't talked about, what we haven't discussed, is what I call the flip side, the dark side of those whose lives are being upended by all these changes, especially when it means they have no way of responding to the dramatic changes in their ability to earn a living. We've also talked about the coming changes to personal credit in the year to come. Have you ever thought about the quality of your social credit?
What is social credit?
Yep, it's a thing. And one country is about to rate each and every one of their citizens. And as a result, it's going to have some real consequences. In fact, even though it's voluntary, it's having consequences right now for the mobility of a broad swath of their population. And we're going to talk about these two items. But let me start with this. Now, we have we've touched and dusted about how Uber and Lyft and Get and Car2Go and all of these ride-hailing, ride-sharing services are affecting, like, cabbies and private limos and stuff like that.
Correct.
Right.
Earlier this year, a private limo driver in New York City committed suicide.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
The reason, he said, he was talking about, he left a long Facebook post, and he said, well, let me start. In New York City, prior to Uber, there was approximately 12 to 13,000 cabs allowed in the city. Mm-hmm. Each of them were regulated by their taxi commission.
Yep.
And you had something called a medallion.
Yep.
Correct.
If you didn't have a medallion, you couldn't legally be a cab.
And those medallions cost some big money.
Anywhere from $325,000 to up, before things changed, nearing $1 million.
Yep.
But they were licensed to print money back in the day. Now, with everything else, we talked about Via in Arlington, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Via in New York would charge a little more than $5 to travel in Manhattan.
Ooh.
Trust me, that's a deal all
That's
day.
a steal.
Every day.
Exactly.
In 2013, there were 47,000 for-hire vehicles in the city. Want to take a guess how many today?
Less than 10?
Less than 5? Less
many?
than 2?
100,000.
Oh, because
What do you? And those are not medallions. That's
no
for
that's
hire.
Uber.
That would be Uber, Lyft,
Okay,
Via.
I see what
whatever.
you're saying. Okay,
I thought we were just talking cabs.
No,
I know. So did I.
no. Mm-mm. This guy talked about that his income went from like $88,000 a year to $69,000, working 100 hours a week now instead of the 40 hours he used to work. People who borrowed money to buy medallions, the medallions have fallen like a rock.
Yep.
They're overstretched because they can't cover the cost of what they borrowed for the medallion that was supposed to be worth it, which was literally their license to print money. And, you know, they borrowed money to pay for them. Now they're deeply in debt. But this gentleman in his early 60s complained. He blamed the taxi commission for the fines and hassle it imposed. And he was a casualty. One of many. And he wasn't the only one. Number of suicides in New York City among cab drivers up a bit as these guys are overextended and upside down with no way out. So there's a very real consequence to creative disruption.
And what my question is, why? I'm sure that some of these taxi drivers are looking at the taxi commission going, why in the heck didn't you protect us?
That was his point. That was his entire point. But, you know, at what point when technology overtakes something, you got to draw a line somewhere. Because if you try to protect them, then you make the city less hospitable than other cities, and that starts costing everybody business because conventions will go elsewhere. Tourists will go elsewhere. It'll happen. So it's a balancing act. How about this? Starting in 2020, if you're a Chinese citizen that ranks low on the country's growing social credit system, you could be in danger of being banned from buying a plane ticket or train ticket for up to a year. Their social credit system, and I did not know this, that China does not have a credit rating system like we have here for its citizens.
Okay.
Roughly of the over 1.5 billion people, roughly they got credit histories on only like a third of them. Yeah. So they're looking at this social credit system where the Chinese government, remember, communism, rate citizens based on things like criminal behavior and financial misdeeds, but also on what they buy, say, and do. Depending on who your friends are, could rise or depress your score, which could affect the kind of job you get, where you can live, what you can buy. I'm letting that sink in.
That's just scary.
It should be. What they're talking about is a national trust score that rated what kind of citizen you are. If ever there was Big Brother, that smacks of it. But as they talked about it, what got scarier, the Chinese government turned around to two of the largest data accumulation systems in their country, excuse me, both of which are financial concerns that operate in China, that have information that, depending, they could even incentivize, excuse me, incentivize good behavior.
I'm going to let you take a drink for a second. You're listening to RoadWorthy Drive on the RoadWorthy Drive Radio Network. We're just going to give Ken a chance to get a drink here, and he's going to continue.
I am. The scary part, the two companies running this, China Rapid Finance, and I'm trying to find the other one, Sesame Credit. Yeah. There are 5 categories. One category, the first is credit history. That makes sense. Second is fulfillment capacity, defined in its guidelines as a user's ability to fulfill his or her contract applications. The third is personal characteristics, verifying personal information. And the fourth, behavior and preference. It's a little creepy. Speaking of creepy, when we come back, Utopia and the autonomous car. You're riding shotgun with Ken and RoadWorthy Drive.
RoadWorthy Drive is a cornerstone of the RoadWorthy Drive radio network.
You could be penalized for saying something negative against the government. You could be rewarded by saying something nice. My favorite comment in this piece, coughing again. Let me find it because I thought it was perfect. It summed it up. It summed it up very succinctly, and I want to try to find that. Here it is. This is the piece. I'm going to go back and see. Let's see. Yeah. You could see China's so-called trust plan as Orwell's 1984 meets Pavlov's dogs.
Oh, boy.
Act like a good citizen, be rewarded, and made to think you're having fun. It's worth remembering, however, that personal scoring systems have been present in the West for decades. The closer you look in this article, we're not that far off in terms of scoring. We started statistical scoring, credit scoring, Fair Isaac and Company in 1956, the birth of the FICO score. Could social engineering through some sort of national score be that far away? It sounds Orwellian.
Yes, it does.
But when you read the article and you look into it and they make some comparisons to the West, we're not nearly that far off, particularly now, where the credit score companies and others are looking for alternative ways of trying to judge how creditworthy you are. It is too tempting for a totalitarian government to want to put their fingerprints all over it.
Yep.
For what we would call nefarious purposes.
Okay, you ready?
Scary stuff.
You ready for segment number 4?
Not quite yet. We lost our girl.
I'm assuming she went down the hall.
I want to wait a moment.
Right, we can wait a moment.
Yeah, I would rather have her involved so she can give us the wisdom of her sage and her comments and observations. But yeah, that scared me when I ran across that. And
that is scary.
I mean, it's scary, but it's scary because when you look at it and you compare it to the West, is it really that far away? Credit scores do that now. Really control where you live, what you can afford, what you can buy, what you can't buy.
Yeah.
You know, they've added a couple spins to it. You realize that your credit score could go, that score could go up or down depending on who your friends are and what your friends do. Yeah, let that sink in for a minute.
Because my friends do something else doesn't mean I'm going to.
As far as the score is concerned, it says doesn't matter. You guys are friends.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. I am not.
Really?
Really. I mean, it's scary, but we've talked about, and you've been consistent about, cybersecurity, the sharing of data, and exactly just what people get and how they manipulate that data, which is supposed to be, in the aggregate form, anonymous.
Right.
But we have no proof of that.
That's true.
You know, it's like, trust me, that's all we got. You know, and from what we've seen in data breaches lately, you know, what does that mean? What's that worth?
Well, it's worth a heck of a lot, but you're still running into the same problem. Okay, folks, 8 minutes, 50 seconds.
Hold on here. Almost there. Okay, I'm there. Yeah. As usual, People of Fun goes so quickly. And we're already to our last segment for the second hour. Fun times.
So much fun.
Uh-huh. So we're going to end it with a little Utopia. You know, kind of wash the dark side out your mouth a little bit.
Not to be confused with Zootopia.
Oh, no.
Come on now.
Or dystopian.
You didn't go there.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
I've got kids. Sue me. All right.
You know, in the words of another Disney thing,
what?
Let it go.
Wow.
This is the final part of this hour of RoadWorthy Drive. Glad you could be with us. I'm Ken Chester. I think I can say with some reasonable assurance that at least two of us on the RoadWorthy Drive crew are what you might call, futurists. Or maybe we're just eclectic. We spend time thinking about and reading about the future and the technology that will take us there. Now, while I've read George Orwell's 1984, which was written in 1949, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, which was written way back in 1932, and Ray Bradbury's short story, There Will Be a Soft Rains, which was written in 1950 and still creeps me out.
Love that one.
Yeah, but it still creeps me out.
Creeps me out, too.
Way more than it should.
So much.
And I got so many questions. Our future, as we currently know it, at least the near future, say 15, 20 years from now, won't be nearly as pessimistic as the writers projected during the middle of the last century. However, I thought I would take you along with me in time for a peek of what some current writers and journalists are sharing in print. Let me start with this title. By 2020, we'll have flying cars and robot bellboys, along with crippling depression and unemployment. What?
I can agree with the crippling depression.
Well, that one I can too.
Because as technology takes more and more into our daily lives, we're further isolating ourselves.
We all know, and I think the three of us will agree on this, that if you do not have a job, your depression level is through the roof. Okay? When a man or a woman is working, things can go really, really well. Okay?
Kind of.
If you're making a living wage, but that's a whole other conversation, not for this show.
Correct.
Okay, but even if...
But how much of this technology is taking that ability to make a living away?
Okay, but let me throw this at you. Get us a little bit back on track. Keep that thought. In 2 short years, we'll be a month into 2020. And by then, you'll apparently be able to catch a ride in a flying Uber to a hotel where a robot will check your luggage and the minibar fridge will be much smarter than you. Though the odds that you'll be depressed and unemployed, which means you won't even be able to ease with a couple of martinis because you're taking a pill that makes the booze no fun. That's kind of messed up.
That's kind of messed up. How are you going to do that?
Well, 2020, is a nice round number. By 2020, we'll do this, we'll do that. This is cute, though. One of the things they're talking about, New York State says by 2020 it will eliminate toll booths. You're a little late, New York. Massachusetts has already done it. I know. I've gone through a toll-less tollway and gotten billed for it. Didn't hurt too much. Okay. What's a pound of flesh between friends? It's pretty cool, though. I mean, we did talk about Uber promising flying taxes, and they were talking about 2020. In fact, the U.S. military has been aiming to roll out in 2020, get this now, a flying Humvee, a troop transporter that looks like a minivan topped with helicopter rotors.
Why am I picturing the Winnebago from Spaceballs?
Oh, no.
Yes.
I got one better for you, and I haven't read it anywhere but here. Toyota in January unveiled plans to build an autonomous driving store.
Toyota?
Let me say that again. Toyota unveiled plans to build an autonomous driving store. A retailer could build a little shop in one of these, and it would drive to you, so that you could try on a bunch of shoes without having to ship the rejects back to Sabatos. That's all my wife needs.
Okay, wait a minute.
Robomart.
Oh, no.
Wait a minute.
No.
Are you telling me that they're going to take, like, what we know as food trucks?
Oh, yeah.
And turn them into grocery stores, and they'll come to you?
Well, I don't know about grocery stores, but I could see, like, small applications like that shoe truck, and that thing would be profitable from day one. I haven't met a woman. Yeah, I know.
Careful.
Hey, you know what? I'm married to one.
No,
Love her dearly.
You know what?
Much pairs of shoes.
No shame in my 87 pairs of shoes.
That's all I'm saying.
Hello, Imelda Marcus.
I own 2 pairs of shoes. I
own 3.
Yeah, 2. Have to fight for space with my wife's. I don't even know how many.
No shame.
That's all. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. How about this? Predictions say that we will have an automatic language translation on our phones, and there will be 4 connected devices for every human on Earth. Well, I believe Samsung or LG already has that. I've seen that in a commercial a year ago.
Yep.
So that's not surprising. Another thing to think about, let me get this here. By 2020, you'll like this, Jack, we'll be able to buy lab-grown meat. Japan will use robots to build an outpost on the moon. And Dubai will run its government on blockchain technology.
Huh?
Yeah, never mind. Blockchain, we'll talk about that another time.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we have to. How about this? There was this outfit called HOK, a global architecture and design firm, who envisioned what cities would look like. More natural, with fully autonomous cars, more nature, less cement and asphalt.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool. But let me read you this thought. The oncoming rush of autonomous vehicle technology has led for a rampant speculation of the futures of cities, roads, and society. A recent issue of New York Times Magazine dedicated the subject listed to a number of utopian, dystopian, and downright fanatical visions of our driverless future. No more roadkill, tickless policing, non-stop teenage car parties, etc.
Non-stop teenage...
Yeah, I knew she'd pick up on that. That's why I read it.
The answer to that would be no.
Autonomous car. I can think of some other nefarious things not fit for radio.
I understand.
And we're going to leave it there.
No. Here's what's going to happen.
Oh, no.
You are going to see fathers and mothers going along on these little car rides.
Uh-huh. Or at least one of them, if not both of them.
Exactly.
Well, many proposals for AV-enabled streets feature incremental changes, wider sidewalks, addition to landscape elements that filter water and pollution. But their whole thing is nature first. It'll be quieter. It'll be less heat because less pavement means that the city island effect of warming is reduced because you've got less asphalt that you're dealing with.
Right.
So it actually sounds pretty nice. And I've often imagined when I was at the New York Auto Show last year, fully autonomous cars, I thought if every other street was a walkway instead of a street, no asphalt, how much quieter Manhattan would be even then.
Yeah.
So, Utopia people, autonomous car, both are going to be a thing. Another hour has come to an end, and much too soon. On behalf of the Roadworthy Drive crew, thanks for listening, and be sure to tune in again next week, same time, same place. This has been Roadworthy Drive with Ken Chester.
Roadworthy Drive with Ken Chester is a copyrighted presentation of the Roadworthy Drive Radio Network. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or any other use is prohibited without the written consent of the Motor News Media Corporation.
I feel like Jackie Gleason when I do this.
You're making yourself look ridiculous.
Yeah, Google it. Jackie Gleason, Google it. Just
no,
Google
I don't
it.
have to Google it. I remember Jackie.
Uh-huh. Every Saturday night.
Yep.
Jackie Gleason show.
7 o'clock or 8 o'clock?
7 or 7:30.
I could never.
It was at least 7.
Well, I can tell you this. In my house, it was Lawrence Welk.
Uh-huh.
Not
in our house, thank God.
Then it was Jackie Gleason.
Absolutely. My 3 sons after that.
Oh, I love that show.
Yep.
I will leave you with this. Jackie Gleason's, he opened the show the same way. The Miami Beach audience is the greatest audience in the world, and they would lose it. Oh, well, television and nostalgia and Utopia all wrapped together. On behalf of the Roadworthy Drive crew, we've come to another hour of the craziness that is Roadworthy Drive behind the scenes. We're so glad you could be with us. Be sure to tune in and visit us again next week when we do this all again. On behalf of Jack, Sasha, and myself, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later.